Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a bunch of new stories for you. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you, and let's start with the first story right away.
Story 1. AITA for refusing to pay for daycare for my son with my ex? Posted by you/DuKale3735. I have a almost 3-year-old son with my ex. He is the best thing that has ever happened to me. Almost a year ago, I filed for divorce from my ex. We have split custody, 50-50. As child support, I pay $900 per month, plus 100% of all healthcare and education-related costs for our son. My ex was at home with our son until he was about 10 months old. At that time, she wanted to go to grad school, so we had planned to put our son in daycare. My mom, whom my siblings and I had been supporting, asked if she could watch our son rather than putting him in daycare. My ex was giddy at the idea, but I was a little hesitant because I wanted my mom to enjoy her retirement. But my mom and my ex very much wanted to do it, so I relented. Plus, my son absolutely loves every moment he gets to spend with his Mimi. My mom has continued to be the primary caretaker of our son when my ex and I are working. My ex, whom I mostly co-parent with, wants our son to go to daycare. But my ex cannot afford daycare at all, so she wants me to pay for it. I refuse. Our son still absolutely loves going to his Mimi's house. My siblings have kids that our mom looks after, and so my son gets a lot of time with his cousins. My mom still loves doing it. Plus, she was an educator and is bilingual and is doing an amazing job in that department as well. I check in with her to make sure she still wants to do it because I do not want her to be overwhelmed. Plus, the daycare here would cost about $250 to $300 per week. So, I refuse. My ex says this setup makes my family have undue influence over our son's development. If that was a concern, she has never expressed that until now. Plus, why would our son being under the influence of strangers at daycare be better? This has been a point of contention for about the last month. Am I the jerk? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. Lots of people would kill for their kids to have daily time with grandparents and cousins in a safe environment. That sounds like a huge win for your child, not some influence problem. Commenter 2. Both parents trust Op's mom. It's free. She was an educator. She can teach the children another language. There will be socialization. It's a perfect solution. Commenter 3. You are taking Op's word that both parents trust her and think this is a good environment. There was a similar setup with my in-laws and the cousins when my kids were little, and I insisted they go to a professional, licensed, fully staffed daycare. I would not be comfortable with my toddler being cared for by one elderly woman who is also caring for several other children full-time. There could also be other factors that the mother has concerns about. For example, perhaps the kid is not well supervised, the grandmother is a religious fanatic, she spanks the kids, etc. Perhaps they badmouth the mother openly. Perhaps the cousins are violent or bad influences. There are many situations where licensed childcare is better than the free family alternative. Op's response. My ex insisted that we utilize my mom for childcare. Throughout our marriage, she continued to insist we use my mom for childcare. From 10 months old until he was 25 months, my mom was our childcare, and my ex expressed nothing but gratitude and appreciation for it. I was the only one who had expressed any type of trepidation about it at any time. When I filed for divorce and my ex was trying to get me to reconsider, for us to go to counseling, etc., she never expressed any issues with my mom being childcare. She continued to express to me and to my mom how appreciative she was for my mom providing childcare for our son. It is only after the divorce was finalized a few months back that she first expressed any type of concern. And the only concern expressed to me is undue influence. And the only basis I have been given for that concern is the amount of time our son spends with my mom. Nevertheless, she still continues to utilize my mom for childcare. In fact, she uses my mom for childcare more than I do. Update 3 months later. My ex and I got divorced earlier this year. When we were married, we bought her grandmother's house. This house was built in the 1910s and had been in my ex's family since then. It is quite large. It was, de facto, the house where my ex's family would stay when they came into town for anything. This continued into our purchase of the house and was a part of my decision to divorce her. When we bought it, we primarily used my premarital savings and inheritance. That was 5-ish years ago. When we got divorced, the court determined that the bulk of the house, 90%, belonged to me in accordance with our postnup agreement. My ex tried a number of scenarios where she would keep the house, or it would go into a trust for our kid, so it would stay in the family. The only thing I would agree to is selling the house, her buying me out, or me buying her out. We went with the latter because my ex did not have the money to buy me out. The day after Christmas, my ex's grandmother died. She had been sick for years, and the reason we bought the house is because she could no longer live on her own and desperately needed money for end-of-life care. Anyway, yesterday afternoon, My ex's cousin showed up at the house with his family. He drove into town for the funeral on Thursday. Apparently, he and his sister texted my ex and said that they would be staying at the house, inside her family term for my house, and she indicated she was okay with that. I called my ex and asked her why she volunteered my house for hosting people. She apologized and said she had been running around getting things done for the funeral. But, she asked if I would be willing to host because they really do not have space for people without using the house. I told her no, and that they need to get hotels or whatever other arrangements. She said they do not have money to get everyone hotels and people are struggling financially. That there is plenty of extra room in the house. They could just be in the finished basement with their own bathroom, kitchen, entry, and exit. I told her no. She got quite upset and hung up on me. I told the cousin and his family that they cannot stay. Am I the jerk? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Info: why did hosting family contribute to the divorce? Also, was she a stay-at-home mom? Ops response. Her family would show up whenever and however they wanted, generally would make a mess, and were generally rude or mean to me. Because of this, when we bought the house, one of my conditions was that it would be treated like our home, rather than the family house. We have a 3-year-old son. While we were married, before our son was conceived or born, she was going to school and working part-time. I paid all expenses. After our son was born, she continued to go to school and work part-time. I continued to pay all expenses. We waited until he was 10 months old before he started going full-time to my mom's house. My son was born October 2022. At that time, my ex was finishing out a second undergraduate degree with a graduation in May 2022. My ex finished the degree in May 2022. During my son's first 10 months, if my ex had class, had to work, etc., either I would be home with our son, my mom would watch him, or we would get a babysitter. Downvoted commenter 2. To me, this is a within your rights, but clear you're the jerk. There's not enough detail here to judge the details. Maybe her family is awful, and you need to keep them out of your life for your own sanity. But it's easy for me to see this from her perspective. Privileged/rich boy says he loves her and wants to be with her, but actually knocks her up, leaves her, and uses his riches to screw her poorer family out of their generational home. Then won't even let people stay there temporarily when they're mourning the death of a family member. I don't know what's important to you in life, but it sure doesn't seem like it's kindness, love, family, or helping people. Ops response. Not rich or privileged. My parents are Haitian immigrants who refuse to go into debt for anything, refuse to spend more than 70% of their take-home income, and saved or invested the rest. I grew up in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom home in a neighborhood where most of my neighborhood friends' families were on food stamps. My ex grew up in a 4-bedroom house where she had her own room. She has family members out of state who could have easily bought the home. She has a godfather who is president of the largest local bank in our state. He could have bought the home, or lent her money to buy it from me. My ex's family, if they pooled their money, could buy the house. Instead, there was a lot of fighting among the family about the house until we bought it. I did not screw them out of the home. I would rather not have this home. My preference was that she buy me out or we sell it. She could not buy me out, and she did not want to sell it. But, after this experience, it might just be time to sell it and be done with it. Up to another commenter. I am not invited to the funeral. My son will not be at the funeral because he is too young. I did not want to buy this house, she did. So, no, I did not get my way in the marriage. Her lack of concern for what I wanted was one of the reasons we are divorced. Downvoted commenter 3. Your post said your cousin asked your wife, and she said yes, they could stay. She would never have said that if she had told you that you were not invited. Unless she asked you to look after the baby, and that is different than not being invited. Nobody is dumb enough, no matter how dumb they are, to think they would tell their ex they are not invited to her family funeral while asking them to host their family for said funeral. Nobody. So, yes, I don't believe you. Clearly, you were told you were not invited after said episode, which is logical. The biggest issue with what you did, other than being a complete jerk with zero empathy in a moment of great need, is you nuked your relationship with your son's mom's side of the family. Of course, you could be okay with that, but it will have repercussions on your relationship with your ex in the future, which will impact your son. Ops response. I am not invited. You know my ex okayed people to stay at my house without checking with me at all, right? Like, not calling or texting whatsoever. Why would you think it would be a faux pas in her mind to invite them to stay if I am not invited to the funeral? My ex does not care at all about decorum here. You would think no one is dumb enough to invite family to stay with their ex for at least 4 nights without checking with their ex, but that is what happened and why I made this post. There is nothing logical about anything my ex did here. But, you are free to believe what you want and ignore inconvenient facts. There is a lot of that going around. Downvoted commenter 4. You weren't invited to the funeral because the family thinks you're a jerk. If you had a good co-parenting relationship with your ex-wife that allowed you to support her, knowing she supports your child, the family would probably have invited you. They would have seen you as an ally in their grief. But instead, you were part of the cause of its continuation. Yes, I agree a 3-year-old is too young. I didn't imply he should attend the funeral. I'm sure in your mind your wife did you all sorts of dirty, not making you the only important thing in her life, still talking to extended family, not wanting her grandmother's house, it's been in the family for 115 years, to leave the possession of the family, which you were welcomed into, etc. Out of curiosity, who decided to draw up a postnup? I have a guess. Op's response. I think they are jerks too. They, including my ex, hid my sister-in-law's affair from my brother-in-law, the only in-law who I got along with. That is the biggest reason I divorced my ex. But, she did do me dirty by secretly getting into about $10,000 in credit card debt while we were married. I paid it off in the divorce even though I was not required by the court to do so. I was not welcomed into her family. At all. Honestly, if we were not engaged by the time I met them, I would have never married her. I decided on the postnup. Her parents put the house on the market. My ex kept begging me to buy it, I refused. The house is nice, but the price was 4 to 5 times what you can get for a decent 2 to 3 bedroom house in our city. We would share equally in such a home, since we would be contributing close to equal amounts. Plus, the grandmother's home needed substantial work. I had enough for a down payment for the grandmother's house, but that was it. The house remained on the market. My dad died, and I got a substantial inheritance. I now had enough to pay the initial listing price and for the repairs the home needed out of pocket. It still was about 75% of my savings and inheritance. I would agree to purchase the house on 2 conditions. 1, postnup agreement, since I was giving away such a large amount of my savings and inheritance, which would not be the case if we bought the standard home, and 2, this would be treated like our home, not her family's home. She agreed to both conditions. But then continued to treat it like her family's home. After the divorce, I kept the home because she begged me to keep it, because she did not want to sell it. But, I never wanted this house. Op adds an edit to his post. 1. People seem to be assuming the house was discounted to us when we bought it. It was not. It had been on the market for a year, and the price had been decreased multiple times with no offers for the listed price at any point. We bought it for the initial price it was listed for, which was the appraisal price. 2. My personal preference was that my ex buy me out of the house. She did not have the money to do so. My next preference was to sell the house. My ex begged me to keep the house, so I agreed to do so. 3. The trust idea she had would mean putting the house in a trust with a life estate to me and the remainder to my son. This would effectively prohibit me from selling the house. I have no intentions of selling now, but I refuse to put myself in a position where I cannot sell in the future if I decide I need to do so. But I do have a trust for my son now, 3 years old, where he will inherit my assets at the time I die. Second update 3 weeks later. A number of people have asked for an update. Not much has happened until a few days ago. On Saturday, one of my ex's cousins, not the one who showed up at my door, we will call him, Dave, texted me. As you probably guessed from my original post, I do not have the best relationship with my ex's family. This was true while we were together. However, I did have a good rapport with this particular cousin. Apparently, my ex and a number of the other family members had been talking bad about me in the family group chat. Dave reached out to get my side of things, but understood if I did not want to talk. I called him and relayed much of what I said in my original post and comments to him. What I learned from my conversation with Dave is, my ex told her family, after the divorce, that she still co-owned the house with me. That I do not abide by the court's order regarding expenses for our son, and that she cannot afford a lawyer to fight me on it. I set the record straight for him on both accounts. I own 100% of the house and bought her out of her 10% share. I also pay 100% of the medical costs and child care/education costs for our son as ordered by the court. I also pay more than the court-ordered amount for child support. We talked a little bit more to catch up, and I thought nothing of it. Apparently, Dave decided to share the details of our conversation in the family group chat. On Monday, I got an angry long text from my ex about what Dave said in the group chat, and that she wanted to talk. We talked yesterday. She expressed how frustrated she is with everything. That she was, and still is, willing to do whatever it takes to make our relationship work. She said if I am not willing to try and make it work, the least I could do is work with her so she can pay me off over time for the house, put the house in a trust for our son so it stays in the family, and not badmouth her to her family. I reiterated that there are no circumstances under which I would want to be with her. The least of which is that she is actively lying about me and our divorce to her family. I also restated that I will not let her pay me off for the house because it will take her decades to even pay me back for how much money I have put into the house, even if there was no interest. I will not put it in a trust because the type of trust she wants is specifically designed to prevent me from selling the house in the future if I need to do so. I also stated that I did not ask Dave to share any of our conversation, and everything I said to him was 100% factual. I told her moving forward, I am doing no more than what I am legally obligated to do for her. I will only pay the child support amount that is legally required, and not a cent more. I will put the extra I was paying towards the money I was already setting aside for our son. If she wants to buy the house, she can at fair market value. But I will sell the house if or when I feel it is appropriate for myself and our son, regardless of what her or her family want. If or when I sell it, I will get the highest price possible, regardless of whether that person is part of my ex's family. And if her family keep being a problem about the house, it will probably be sooner rather than later. She left mad, but that is where things stand. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Good for you. This was a nice update. I hope she felt embarrassed having her lies called out in the group chat like that. Commenter 2. She won't feel shame or embarrassment, just anger at being called out publicly. Commenter 3. Wow, I can't believe she signed a postnuptial that only gave her 10%. Was it time or condition based? Did you both have separate lawyers look it over? How long were you married? So many questions. Did she work? Did all her family take Dave's version over hers? Ops response. She put up none of her own money to pay for the house. Yes, we had separate lawyers. Not time or condition based. We were married almost 6 years. She worked part-time and went to school, which I paid for. I have no idea what version the family believed. Story 2.
AITA for telling my stepdaughter I don't want to be her mom anymore? Posted by you/sad_mycologist9368. Editor's note, Op's former career was in the adult film industry. It was mentioned later in the TLDR, but I thought putting it here early would give you better context on the situation that unfolded. Hello guys. I decided to share my story here and hopefully gather some input on a situation that is causing me some real issues currently. This will be very long, so bear with me. By the way, I am using fake names in this story. I, 36F, am married to Josh, 40M. He has a daughter, Ella, 18F, who still lives at home and is in her first year of university. I have been married to Josh since Ella was 12 years old. She was on good terms with her bio mother until her mother got married and ghosted her and her father when Ella was only 11. It broke her so much that Josh decided to give it more time before Ella and I would meet. Once we got engaged, Josh finally introduced me to Ella, and surprisingly we clicked right away. We both loved anime and video games, and we would often play video games together and watch different animes together. When my husband and I finally got married, she was a junior bridesmaid, as I wanted her to be a part of the wedding. She was there for the whole process and was very excited for her father and me to be getting married. When Ella turned 14, she finally started calling me mom, and we were closer than ever. Around 17, her mother came back into her life, and her father agreed to let her see her mother every month. She still called me mom, but became more distant than she had ever been. At 18, she started calling me by my name. I will not lie, it stung, but despite all that I still treated her like my daughter and called her my daughter to others. The point of all this is to show you how close we were and how her behavior shifted. About 2 weeks ago, Ella asked me if she could borrow some of my body lotion from my room. I did not think twice about it because she has done that in the past, but this time I noticed she was taking a while to come out of my room. I called her name and she did not answer, so I checked on her. She looked panicked and just grabbed the lotion off my dresser and rushed out. I thought it was strange and assumed maybe she was stealing my lipsticks or something petty. I got a little annoyed but brushed it off. A few days later, we were hosting a dinner for New Year's Eve. My husband's parents and my sister were invited over for the countdown. During the countdown, my mother-in-law received a text on her phone and got up from her seat. She whispered into her husband's ear and showed him something on her phone. At first I was confused but not bothered, until my father-in-law called out to my husband and told him to look at his phone. He did, and his face went pale. He immediately started panicking and asked Ella to talk to him in a separate room. Before that could happen, Ella loudly announced, "Did you know that your wife is a WHRE?" My mother-in-law immediately showed me the video and started berating me in front of everyone. My sister tried to de-escalate and defend me, but my stepdaughter kept instigating by telling her grandparents that I was probably cheating on her dad. This made my mother-in-law erupt. They tried to convince my husband that I was definitely cheating, and that I was not a good fit for him. My husband already knew about the work I used to do and had my back, which only angered them more. My husband's parents left abruptly after a huge argument, during which my father-in-law called my husband a cuck. After they left, my sister left shortly after to give us time to sort things out. My husband dropped Ella off at his parents' house for the night, so he could talk to me and cool down. 2 days later, he brought Ella home and talked to her while I was out of the house. He explained that he knew everything about my past and had always been supportive of it. According to him, she realized she had made a huge mistake. She cried and apologized to him, and told him that her biological mother told her about my past. At first she did not believe her, until she found the tapes. My husband called me and asked if I wanted to talk to her, but what he did not tell me was that he was next to her and had me on speaker. I ended up saying that I did not feel like I wanted to be near her, and that I did not want to be her mother anymore. She heard everything and started crying on the phone. She told me she was going to stay with her grandparents for a bit until things cooled down. I agreed, and that has been the arrangement up until recently. My in-laws have already started telling people my business and slandering my name because of this, which makes me even more angry at her, since she has had every opportunity to correct them but has not. I know she is only a teenager, but I cannot bring myself to go back to the way things were just because she apologized. Please, a little help would be nice. Am I being harsh? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk, you are not being harsh. An 18-year-old should know better and deserves the harsh consequences of sharing such personal information and videos in the manner that she did. She wanted to disrupt and cause embarrassment. Commenter 2. What I don't get about this is how this brat did this to her op, but now that op said she didn't want a relationship with her anymore, suddenly she is the bad guy. No, not the jerk. Your in-laws all really suck though. Commenter 3. From how it sounds, to me anyways, the mom got in the stepdaughter's head and probably told her that her dad knew nothing, which seems like the thing the stepdaughter was most upset about from what was initially said. Teenagers aren't exactly known for thinking their actions through, so I doubt she really considered that her dad could have known and taken op's side instead of hers. It doesn't change anything about how messed up what the stepdaughter did was, and it doesn't absolve her of any responsibility. She's old enough to know better and should never have involved her grandparents in any way. However, a parent that has abandoned a kid and then turns back up tends to have a weird amount of influence, especially with teenagers, because the kid often still wants their approval or feels like it was their fault the parent left in the first place. Either way, op is not the jerk. Op adds an edit to her post. I absolutely did not expect this many comments, so quickly. Thank you for all the nice replies and those who actually want to give their thought and genuine advice. I'm sorry if I can't reply to all the comments. I'm reading them all and trying to reply to certain comments in order to give clarifications, but I want to address some things here instead to clear up any confusion. 1. I was 20 when I created my first movie. Yes, DVDs existed back then. I'm confused on how some people think DVD adult films didn't exist in 2010. 2. Ella was able to find the video online using the info on the DVD. No, I don't know the details on how she did it. Although realistically, it shouldn't be hard to find, as I myself have searched for my content and have found it easily. Her father told me that she had screen recorded one of the videos. 3. I kept the DVDs because I was proud of my content at one point, and my husband had requested that I keep some of the ones he liked. I had never had the thought that my stepdaughter would snoop through my things, so no, I did not burn it or hide it. 4. No, this is not a karma farm or whatever some are saying. If you don't want to believe the post, you can scroll. I don't even know what karma does, but that's beside the point lol. I will not be posting links to my old movies. I am married and couldn't care less if you believe my post. 5. I do not hate my stepdaughter. I just need time to process things. I am still a human being. 6. My stepdaughter's biological mother is friends with my ex-boyfriend, and he was very involved at that point in my life. That's how she knows about my past. My husband did not tell her. She found out from a third party. 7. Josh and I were dating when Ella's mother ghosted my husband and stopped visiting Ella. Yes, she was 11. We dated for about 2 years before we got engaged. We were engaged for 1 year. During that time, my friends and I got really into Naruto and were binging the show. We were close pre-wedding. We clicked instantly is a bit of an exaggeration, but she warmed up to me pretty quickly after she and I found out about our shared interest. 8. I will try to update as soon as possible, but I probably will take some time to actually take the advice in the comments. And yes, therapy is an option. Update 5 days later. Hello guys, this might not be the update some of you were hoping for, but it is probably the one most of you expected. This is extremely long. So feel free to skip the context and get straight into the update. Before I start the update, I want to give some context about Ella's mother and my relationship with her. For the sake of the post and convenience, I will call Ella's mother Lori. Context: Lori and I are not on good terms. Back when Lori and Josh were together, I was actually friends with Josh. We never saw each other romantically at the time, and our relationship was completely platonic. After a while, Lori started to feel bothered by my friendship with Josh. Instead of talking to me directly, she started asking around about me. She eventually got information through my ex-boyfriend, and when she found out I was a former adult film actress, she flipped out. She accused me of trying to seduce her boyfriend and called me a WHRE and a homewrecker, trashing me to some of Josh's and my mutual friends. Josh eventually broke up with her after she started threatening me with violence, and they became single co-parents to Ella. And just to clarify, I never had an affair with Josh. Around 2014 or 2015, Lori started dating a new guy. Not long after, she quickly moved in with him, exposing Ella to her new boyfriend against Josh's wishes. Lori's boyfriend was extremely sketchy, and because of that, Josh constantly argued with her about Ella's safety around him. Josh would often threaten to keep Ella away from Lori, and after each threat, Josh would not hear back from Lori for weeks, despite Ella's eagerness to see her mom. Even after all the boundaries Lori crossed, Josh stayed faithful to his promise not to introduce me to Ella until we were engaged. When we finally did meet, Ella and I became close. This angered Lori, as she did not want a homewrecker in her daughter's life. She also resented the fact that Josh proposed to me after 2 years of dating, while he never proposed to her during all their years together. One day, while picking Ella up from our home, she started an argument with Josh. The argument quickly turned violent, and she smacked him in the face. Josh snapped and told her she was not allowed to come to his house again, or he would call the police. Lori left angrily and decided to leave Ella at our house instead of picking her up, as planned. When Josh tried to contact her later, he realized he was blocked everywhere. Months later, he found out that she had secretly married her sketchy boyfriend without informing anyone. Even though Josh's messages would not go through, Ella would sometimes reach out to her mother and actually get a response. Despite that, her mother never made an effort to meet with her until 2024. This is when my husband started setting up dates so that her mother could see her again. Now that the context is out of the way, here is what happened recently. 1. My husband spoke to Lori about her role in all of this. Many commenters pointed out that Ella was being influenced by her mother, which turned out to be true. Lori admitted to my husband that she told Ella I was cheating on him. She also told Ella about my past to sell the idea that I sleep around a lot. My husband was incredibly upset and called her miserable and insecure. He apparently unleashed hell on her, and she blocked him once again. 2. My stepdaughter is living at home again. She showed up at our door with a handwritten note apologizing to me for everything. Even though I was still very hurt about her New Year's stunt, I could not help but feel a bittersweet emotion that made me cry hard. In the note, she talked about all the feelings she had kept in for so long. She wrote about how she cried when she found out I was cheating on her dad. She wrote about how she mourned the end of our relationship and how upset she was for her father, going on about how she was stupid to believe her mother. She also wrote that she always loved me, but felt like, with her mother in her life, she was forced to choose. Even though she thought of me as her real mother at heart, she felt like she should side with her mom because she is blood. I asked her to explain the note to me, and together with my husband, we sat down and talked. It was extremely emotional for all of us, and even my husband started tearing up. Being able to finally cry and tell her how deeply her distance hurt me felt relieving. It went better than I imagined, and I no longer felt anger toward her. I still had some leftover resentment, and I will not pretend otherwise, but I felt good about the conversation. She stayed the night, and the next morning, things were a little awkward but tolerable. After a day of awkwardness, we had another conversation about her mother. She told me she did not want to cut her mother off completely, but she planned to distance herself for a while. I brought up family therapy, as some of you suggested, but she told me it was not something she was interested in, which I respected. We are currently on awkward but civil speaking terms. I am not sure things will ever be the same, but I am optimistic that they could improve. 3. I reached out to Josh's parents this morning with Josh beside me on the phone. They apologized in a strange, half-hearted way. They said they do not agree with my past, but they did apologize for saying I was cheating on my husband. Josh's dad also apologized to Josh for using hurtful words toward him. They never apologized for calling me degrading names, which irritated me, but for now, I will take it as a win. 4. A lot of comments were bashing Josh for how he handled the phone call. I wasn't extremely upset about it before, but after reading a lot of comments, I did kind of realize what a jerk move it was. I spoke to him about it, and he apologized. He thought it would be wise to let Ella hear the consequences of her actions, but did not expect me to say I didn't want to be her mother anymore. I forgave him, as he did what he thought was best at the time. Honestly, I had also made a huge mistake by saying I didn't want to be Ella's mother anymore. I signed up for the role when I got married to her father. So I don't and will not hold that brief moment against him, when I was guilty of a mistake as well. But honestly, that's it. I tried to give enough context so things would not be too confusing. I am not sure there will be anything else to update after this. But, thank you to everyone who made it this far, and thank you to all the people who took an interest in my life. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. So what's going to happen regarding the entire community of people your in-laws have been slandering you to? It's a bit late to take that back, and they made it public. Ops response. You're definitely right. I did not forgive them, but they are very ignorant, so I feel like there's not much I can do to improve the situation with them. Commenter 2. If your stepdaughter doesn't want to attend family therapy and isn't really willing to address how toxic and manipulative her mother is, I worry this won't end well. Please make sure you are a good advocate for yourself in this situation. Ops response. I'm trying to put myself first. But at the same time, I'm trying not to behave selfishly either. I absolutely think she should attend therapy, and I saw another comment suggesting it as a condition, which I actually do like. But still, she is an adult, and I cannot force her to go to therapy. Commenter 3. So, she can ruin your reputation in your relationship with your in-laws and her, and she can cry and think it's all so unfair that she's getting consequences, but she won't cut her mum off, she won't do family therapy, and she's back at home where she wanted to live. Your in-laws don't care to mend the bridge that she burned. You're probably emotionally burnt out, but I think your husband is at least letting his daughter off too easily. Commenter 4. I agree with this. Op is delusional saying she's mother. She's not and never will be. Stepdaughter has gotten away with trashing Op's reputation to in-laws because of some comments her real mother said. She's facing zero consequences.
Story 3.
My fiancé compared my antidepressants to cocaine, and wants me off them. Posted by you/Tanis Possession. I, 28F, have the loveliest, most charming, and attentive fiancé, 35M. We had a whirlwind romance for 9 months, in which he proposed over quarantine. He is everything I want in a partner, and I love him deeply. The last 3 months were rough for me. I had a car accident, started a small business, and had a family member pass away. My fiancé and I weren't getting along because I was stressed, crying, and had to enter serious therapy to deal with the effects of the accident. I was unhealthily dependent on my fiancé and would call him nightly, just sobbing my eyes out. I started taking a low-dose antidepressant. Finally, I'm not fixated on the accident. I'm happy and go lucky. I'm back swimming again, my favorite activity, calling friends, and my business is doing well. I admit I have less time for my fiancé. I'm much less needy. Sometimes I can't get to my phone in time and miss his calls, when before I couldn't leave my room and needed to be connected 24/7. My fiancé sat me down and expressed his concerns. He told me he loves me, but he's noticed a change in personality. He said he spoke with a few doctors, and antidepressants can even be compared to cocaine, and that I could be doing lasting damage to myself. He said, I can support you through all the pain and the messiness. I love you, and I want you in my life forever. He said I should call my doctor and request to come off. I kind of balked, and he didn't take it well. He requested that I at least respond to his messages in a reasonable time, that he knows me well, and this new personality isn't the real me, and I'm moving too much. I'm kind of concerned with other behavior from my fiancé. He wants me to wear baggier clothes to the gym, and wants to be involved in every decision I make. When it comes to meeting new clients, he wants to know who they are, otherwise he says it seems shady. I have a possible contract that would take me out of town, and he expressed concern, telling me I need to stay close to family. I love him, but every conversation turns into him telling me that I have to work harder so he can trust me. Besides counseling, what else can I do? Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Please do not marry this man. I won't say break up with him, because it sounds like you're nowhere near ready to consider doing that, but please just hold off on marriage for the time being. You seem like you've got a pretty good head on your shoulders, and like you recognize these red flags for what they are. At the very least, would you consider going to therapy with him, or taking him to see your doctor? The most charitable explanation here is that he doesn't understand antidepressants, so maybe speaking to a professional about it. I don't know what the hell kind of doctor he was talking to before, but it sounds like some major bullcrap to me, would help. Also, congratulations on digging yourself out of the emotional hole that can come after a traumatic event. That's not easy, and you should be proud of yourself for using the tools you needed to. Ops response. Thank you so much for the lovely response. It means a lot. I suggested 5 months of premarital counseling because I want to make sure we're on the same page. He is hesitant, but willing to make it work. I asked him to seek therapy on his own, and he said it's a possibility. So I have to take my time and see. Commenter 2. Do not come off medication. Do not give him access to your medication, he will tamper with it. I'm not joking. He is lying about speaking to a few psychiatrists and antidepressants being like cocaine. He wants you off them, so that you are dependent on him again. This man wants to control you. That's what he's interested in. Why wouldn't he be happy that you're doing so well? Your whirlwind romance started with love bombing, and now he's panicking because you're happy and less dependent on him. Keep an eye on your medication at all times. He does not love you. He wants control over you. Ops response. I was a sobbing mess off of my medication. It wasn't stable. He's been testing me lately, and I'm not as reactive. I just don't understand why someone would want that. It doesn't make for a healthy relationship. Commenter 3. He's been testing you? What does that mean? Look, you are doing incredibly hard work and doing well, coming off incredibly hard things. This guy sounds like he wants to keep you suffering so you're dependent on him, so he can be your savior, so he can keep control of you. You've known him less than a year, and he's telling you that he knows your real personality? Have you talked about him to your therapist, and about what he's doing and saying? Ops response. He said that I sound too happy, and that I must be dating someone else. As I said in another comment, my medication helped me shrug it off, where previously I would have become upset, cried, or pleaded with him. I have spoken with my therapist, and she advised me to proceed with caution. Commenter 4. That's because your therapist is highly trained and can see the signs of this abusive, controlling, unhealthy situation you're in. Let me guess, your fiancé doesn't think you really need a therapist, right? That he alone can help you through everything? You need to take a huge step back in this relationship, so that you can recognize the patterns of abuse. Don't get married, and don't stop taking your meds. Ops response. Yes, he said I could come to him before the doctor. Commenter 5. There's actually a name for the tactic that some abusive partners use to control the other partner's mental health, including their mental health medication. It's called mental health coercion. The National Domestic Violence Hotline did a national survey on it a couple years ago, and many callers reported various forms of it, such as partners hiding their medications, demanding they not use medication, impeding their access to therapy, gaslighting them, telling them they deserve to be abused because they had depression or anxiety, etc. Substance use coercion is similar and is also a type of domestic abuse. Ops response. Are you serious? I'm at a loss for words. My fiancé isn't at the point that he's hiding medication, but he told me he is extremely concerned, and would advise me, even if he was just my friend. He believes I need to face my problems and that he can help me work through them, as if he could be my coach. It's a very weird situation, where he likes me being his little project. But the truth is, I'm doing a lot better. I have healed and grown. I guess it is a way to be controlling. Update 10 days later. Hi everyone. Many of you commented advising me that this was an emotionally abusive relationship. I admit I am naive and didn't want to believe that was the truth. I spent some time with my fiancé on the weekend, and he continued with his pep talk about the antidepressants. He said I should taper them off to 5 milligrams and gave me a timeline for doing it. I had only been agreeing with him so we didn't have to argue, but secretly I continued with them on my own. After this weekend, we had a wonderful time. He tells me he has hope for our future, that he supports me going through the pain, etc., etc. On Monday, we were talking, and I brought up a pretty big issue in our relationship. I won't go into specifics. He is at fault though, that isn't solved. My fiancé went ballistic. For the first time, he screamed at the top of his lungs with his face distorted and spit flying everywhere. He told me I didn't have a brain big enough to change, and that all I do is sit there and smile with my effing medication, and that I'm a pitiful, almost 30-year-old woman who is pathetic, and if I want to see real trauma, he could show me. He said you're an evil person who is deliberately hurting the only person who loves you, and how dare you bring up these issues when you know I'm stressed. Because I was stoic, he became even more enraged until I had to pretend to cry. Yes, I had to pretend to cry because that's the only way he would calm down. I do feel guilty because he's stressed. He said, if you believe I've overreacted, delete me. But if you want to listen with your heart and put everything on the line and be a ride or die team, I'll come to your place tomorrow. Suddenly, he told me something has come up, let's talk in a week. And he has completely disappeared, gone offline. Because he was screaming at me in front of family members, I think he may be committed to a psych ward? I don't know. I finally found the courage to just block him completely. It hurts like hell, but it's the only way. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I have to tell you, it is very unusual to conclude that because someone shouted, they have been committed to a psych ward. That is just a really dramatic notion. Why didn't the family members present intervene when he was screaming and spitting on you? Ops response. It's not because of the screaming, it's because of his unusual, manic behavior that's become increasingly worse over the past 4 weeks. He is hearing and seeing things that aren't happening. He was telling me I was evil, and that I had to wake up. Edit, there are many other things I didn't include in this. Commenter. Because he was screaming at me in front of family members, I think he may be committed to a psych ward? Those are the words I read. Did you mean to write something different? At any rate, why didn't the family members who were with you when he was screaming intervene? Ops response. It was over video, they don't speak English and couldn't understand. Commenter 2. Sounds like bipolar psychosis, which is no joke. How absolutely ironic that he would be screaming about you being evil and stupid for treating depression, while he's having a breakdown. You deserve to be in a healthy relationship with someone empathetic. He's not it. Ops response. Let me tell you, it is absolute hell. Commenter 3. Did his mood shift happen only after you started taking your medication? Is that what you think might have triggered him? Ops response. He became angry because I asked him to delete his Tinder profile. That is the effing truth. Commenter 4. After more than 9 months? I'm not at all sure what this person is thinking or what they're even doing. From some of your other comments, it genuinely sounds like it could be schizophrenia or bipolar disorder manifesting late in life, probably due to stress activating some sort of genetic component. I don't really think there's anything you could have done to help him, up. It sounds like he's just projecting his resistance to being medicated onto you. The healthiest thing you could probably do, for both yourself and him, is to put some distance between the two of you until he gets better. Second update 6 months later. Hello. I wanted to take the time to thank all of the lovely commenters. It was hard to hear and understand at the time, but you really helped me see how effed up that situation was. Thank you for all the resources, which I had to read over and over in order to try to understand. My ex-fiancé and I are no longer together, and we have zero contact. We had a terrible breakup, in which he threatened to traumatize me. I spiraled into a pretty bad depression, and continued with serious therapy. I took a 2-month trip abroad and entered a healing retreat that was out of cell service. I basically spent 7 weeks crying, vomiting, and healing in the jungle. The good news is that my anxiety has lessened, to the point that I no longer take any kind of medication. I lost 20 pounds. I bought a new apartment, started a new job, and, slowly, started dating someone new. I made a lot of new friends, and I'm actually allowed to see them now. My new guy is about 100x times better, and has never tried to control me in any way. I have bumped into my ex-fiancé 4 times, and honestly, I kind of recoil at the sight of him. I have no idea how he was able to control my life so much at one point. That was a really dark place. It will take me a long, long time before I love anyone again, but that's okay. I'm giving myself a lot of time and space. Things aren't perfect, and I'm still processing, but things turned out much better than I hoped for. So thanks again, Reddit. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I'm curious if he was ever diagnosed with anything as you suspected or his family suspected? Or maybe it was just the commenters who suspected? Was he institutionalized that week he had to go away? He sounds like a freaking psychopath. I'm so glad you're safely out of that relationship. If you run into him again, you may need to consider that he's stalking you. Ops response. Well, his parents still enable him and hide him away from the world. So I doubt he will ever be properly diagnosed or get better. From what I've seen creeping on his social media profiles, his thoughts and beliefs have become more outlandish and strange. And no, he wasn't institutionalized. He was just ignoring me, like a jerk. My new boyfriend lives 4 blocks from his house, so seeing him may be unavoidable. Commenter 2. Wow, this was a major red flag, controlling jerk she was with. Antidepressants like into cocaine? What a devious creep. So glad she got away. I want to know more about the healing retreat in the jungle out of cell range. That sounds glorious. Ops response. Hi. I went to an ayahuasca retreat in Peru. Out of cell range and eating a no salt / spice / red meat / alcohol / caffeine diet. Commenter 3. I wonder how much of her original depression episode was just being with this dude and not the accident. Ops response. I started the antidepressants because of anxiety from him. 7 months later, I am off medication and haven't thought of going back to it. In fact, I haven't had an anxiety attack in about 2 to 3 months. Third update 4 years 3 months later. Mods, I totally understand if you remove this. I just wanted to post a 5-year update. Hey Reddit. 5 years ago, I posted about my extremely toxic fiancé here. I almost forgot about the whole ordeal, but I started thinking about it because I'm engaged. It took a lot of trial and error, but I'm a lot happier. When I think of my ex-fiancé, I'm honestly shocked that I couldn't imagine that life would be good again. So dramatic. It's been a wild 5 years, but I moved to New York, went back to school, and I went back on medication. I did find love again. Except this time, my fiancé supports and encourages me to grow, and understands that I'm stubborn about my independence, hence why it took 6 months for me to leave a toothbrush at his place. Anyway, I've learned that love is about understanding and respect, which is not something I thought I deserved when I first posted. So thanks again, Reddit. /relevant comments. Commenter. Whoa, 5-year update? Thanks for coming back. I'm glad to hear that you've not only stood firm on a treatment plan that you personally believe aligns with your own values, priorities, and goals, but you've also found a partner who can respect your personal health choices. The first part would be a positive outcome on its own, but I'm happy to hear you can rebuild a healthy sense of trust and personal boundaries. Commenter 2. OMG, this is the glow up we all needed to see. Happy you found someone who actually gets it and supports you. Leaving a toothbrush after 6 months is peak independence energy, Lamau.
Story 4.
AITA for telling my friend that her free wedding is unrealistic? Posted by you/throwaway free wedding. I, 24F, am a member of a friend group in which one member, we'll call her Coral, 23F, is getting married. She announced her engagement to her fiancé, 25M, a few weeks ago, and we were all happy for her. Over the weekend, though, she shared more specific plans for the wedding, and that's where things have kinda gone off the rails. She said she's been seeing a lot of people on TikTok and Instagram showing how to plan free weddings where the couple spends $0, aside from the marriage certificate fee, I guess. At first, I thought she meant a city hall wedding, which would be completely fine. But then she got into the details and her expectations for the ceremony. She's going to try and find someone with a large outdoor space to use, not formally a wedding venue, who will donate their area in support of love. She's going to have all of her guests bring a potluck, with very specific assignments. She will have a friend officiate, a friend do photography, a friend do save the dates and invites, her family do the flowers, etc. Including some harder to swing, in my opinion, things like getting a large tent, decorations, wedding favors, speakers, band, etc. I'm not sure what her plan was for a dress. What's more is that Coral and her fiancé really aren't poor, from what I can tell. She works as an accountant at a big company and her fiancé does software, sales, I think. Plus his parents are loaded. It sounds like they just want to do the free wedding thing for the sake of it. That would be okay, but she is just shifting all of the costs onto other people, some of whom are probably less well off. She told me that she wants me to make the cake, and then sent me some pictures for inspiration. The cakes were ridiculously elaborate. We're talking multi-tier, fondant flowers, gold leaf, and one even had a hand-painted watercolor design. I'm not a professional baker, I just like to bake cookies and brownies sometimes. I told her that those cakes would probably take me days to make, and they wouldn't come out anywhere near as good. She kind of laughed that off and said, "Oh, it's not about it being perfect, it's just about everyone pitching in. It'll be fun." I told her that, fun or not, what she was describing was basically her friends and family subsidizing her wedding, with time, money, and labor, and that it was kind of unfair to expect people to spend so much on her free wedding. Or else, she was expecting everyone to show up to a lackluster event and just pretend it was amazing. It's like a group project that none of us wanted to do because we already graduated and moved on from all that, so we don't need the credit. She does graduate a year later than the rest of us. I said that if she wants a free wedding, she should probably just elope or go to City Hall, because this isn't really free, it's just free for her. I might have been a bit more forceful in my wording, but I didn't swear or call her names or anything like that. She got super quiet and just looked at me for a minute or so, and then left, with another one of our friends driving her home. Later that night, I got a text from that friend saying I had really hurt Coral's feelings, and that even if the plans were a bit unrealistic, I should have just let Coral come to that conclusion on her own. Coral then messaged me just saying sorry, don't worry about the cake with no more context. I am feeling pretty bad now, especially since Coral was so happy and excited, and she never really said anything mean to me. Perhaps I should have just gone along with the cake, since she said she wouldn't be mad if it turned out badly, but I am worried that her wedding would not have been what she wanted. I was also frustrated about the cake request. /relevant comments. Commenter. Not the jerk. She's in for a rude awakening the first time she asks for a free party tent from someone. Those are expensive AF to rent. Commenter 2. I wanted to do a cheap wedding, as we were in grad school and our families couldn't help much. I rented a park shelter in a very nice park, waterfall nearby, etc., for $50. My parents brought basically barbecue. My mother-in-law brought a cupcake tower. I made fake flower centerpieces. Bridesmaids picked their own dresses, and groomsmen got a matching tie and wore their own clothes. Then we had a cabin for people to hang out after. My friend officiated, but it wasn't a legal wedding. We did that 2 weeks earlier, and that was that. It is possible to do a wedding pretty cheaply. It is not possible to do a fancy wedding for free. Commenter 3. That's really sweet that she wanted to let you spend a good $100 on cake materials, out of your own pocket, for her wedding. Commenter 4. Bro, I work all the time just to be able to pay my rent and eat every day. I would have to take off time prior to the wedding to bake the dang cake, then again for the actual wedding. I have a tricky time even getting to the grocery store while it's open, just for myself, as I work second shift and my days off are rarely consecutive. I literally can't afford a week off work, and that's basically what this would be asking of me. This isn't a feasible request, even for people that truly want to help. Hot take: if you can't afford the wedding you want, alter your expectations or wait. Don't pawn off the cost onto your friends and family. I'm sure she didn't realize how much time and effort she was requesting. Commenter 5. Not the jerk. Coral needed a reality check, to be honest, and as a good friend, you were honest and gave it to her. Op adds an edit to her post. Honestly, I feel a bit bad now. Coral really is a sweet person who is just a bit naive. I feel like a lot of people in the comments are tearing her up more than she deserves. She has always been the baby of the group, and I just got frustrated and ranted on this case. I don't know what the fiancé thinks about all of this. Update 2 months later. Hi there. My last post sort of blew up, lol. I really didn't think so many people would be that interested in my silly friend group drama. After reading the comments, I honestly began to feel bad for Coral. She really is a kind-hearted person, but a lot of people interpreted her as an insane entitled bridezilla. That's really not the case. I decided I was going to make the cake, and I sent her an apology text, to which I didn't get any reply. That was making me really anxious. I still didn't think that Coral's requests were that reasonable, and I wasn't expecting the wedding to fully go to her plans, but that's not for me to worry about. Finally, I got a message from Coral's fiancé, who we'll call Basil, asking to meet up. I said yes. My expectation going into this was that Basil would tell me how much I hurt Coral's feelings, and I was going to reiterate my apology and share some research or planning I had done on the cake. That's not how it went, though. As it turns out, the whole free wedding thing was Basil's idea. That's not the impression I got before. Basil didn't at first explain why he wanted to do it, but when pressed, it sounds like it's so he could spend the money that he and Coral had been saving up for their wedding on something else. A boat, a Catalina 27, apparently. Very useful and practical thing to have when you are living in the city. Especially if your fiancé gets seasick. We did one of those river cruise things a while back and she had a bad time. Basil says he'll help her get over that, and sailboats are different. Anyway, after my whole outburst before, Coral has apparently been having second thoughts about the free wedding thing. Basil asked me to talk to her, apologize, and tell her that it isn't a bad idea after all. He basically said I owe it to him to help clean up the mess I caused. I don't feel great about that, though. I don't want to drive a wedge between Coral and Basil, but telling her I think it's a good idea after all feels like lying, and I guess actively advocating for a potential train wreck is a further line for me than just agreeing to play my assigned voluntold baker role. Moreover, this was my first real conversation with Basil, and I have to say I'm not totally convinced he's a great person. I don't know if he has exactly manipulated her into going along with this, but it kind of feels that way. So what do I do? It's been a little while now since I talked to Basil, so I really do need to do something, be it what Basil asked, or further involving myself in drama by telling Coral that I don't think the wedding, or the entire marriage, is a good idea. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. I never understood the not wanting to drive a wedge between them mindset. You're not the one doing that by showing her what kind of person she wants to marry. It's his behavior doing that. That said, I'd tell her exactly like it is, that he wants you to convince her for his own benefit. That aside, not the jerk, and after that, it sounds like she needed the wake-up call to second-guess his intentions and start to see through that. Op's response. To be 100% honest, it might be more selfish than that. I said driving a wedge, but maybe part of my fear is that if I make it clear to Coral how I feel about Basil, then if they stay together, most likely, I think, I am likely to lose Coral as a friend. And I don't want that. Commenter 2. How about you just show Coral that you are there for her, no matter what she wants? Don't follow Basil's request. Just be there for Coral. Offer to meet up with her, and just ask about her, how is she? And listen to her. Be true to yourself, and be a good friend to her. That is all, easy to say, you need to do. Ops response. Thank you. This is honestly what I want to do, but given she didn't reply to my last text, I'm worried about whether she'll even meet up with me if the first thing I say isn't directly taking back all my concerns from before. Commenter 3. I assume she knows about the boat? If yes, minimize your feedback. Ops response. I think so? But I'm not certain. Honestly, I'm surprised she would go along with the boat idea, but it seems even less likely that Basil would tell me about this if he was keeping it a secret from Coral. Commenter 4. Makes me wonder if Basil is forcing her not to respond. Continuing to try to check in and befriend to listen could be much bigger than you think. Ops response. I hope that's not it. I will try to reach out to her another way. Second update 2 months later. Hi again. Finally posting this update because a few people have asked what's going on with this whole situation. I finally was able to get in touch with Coral and talk to her one-on-one. The first thing I did was just ask her how she's doing. Apparently, not very well. She's now fully aware that the whole free wedding thing really was her fiancé's idea. And he had mentioned the boat in passing as something he wanted to save up for, but hadn't at all framed it directly as the thing he really wanted to spend the wedding money on, as he did when he told me about it. Maybe he thought that would make me think he's cool or something? Or he thought having a specific goal in mind would make me more likely to support the idea? Anyway, it's not just the wedding planning that has made Coral upset. Apparently, Basil, who is into boats, I guess, has been spending more and more time at the marina that's 78 minutes away. Coral quoted that exact number lots of times. He doesn't even spend that much time out on the water, he just hangs out with everyone there and has been spending less and less time at home. He also keeps talking about Grace who, as had to be explained to me, is a boat rather than a woman, fortunately. Coral said she's been invited to the club a few times, but has never really felt like she was part of it. When she brought that up to Basil, he said he also feels that way, because they don't own their own boat. I don't think it's the same at all. And even if Grace isn't a person, Coral is feeling jealous. Last night Coral brought up the wedding plans with Basil again and said she thinks she wants to wait and sort some stuff out first. Basil didn't get angry or anything and said he understands, good. But also asked if that meant they could spend some of their wedding savings, since they would have more time to save up again, bad. That broke Coral, which might be why she finally agreed to meet me. I know it makes me kind of a jerk, but to be entirely honest, I'm just glad that Coral is talking to me again. I told her to break up with Basil. She's thinking about it. But I'm scared she won't. I kind of want to offer to do it for her, but that would be silly. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Yeah, to be honest, her breaking the engagement is probably already a sign she is ready to leave. I don't think I would push it too hard, just mention it every so often in comments. Though maybe do one big sit-down talk, and maybe wine night with her. And kind of ask her what she wants from the future and how she sees her own life playing out. Like, for the night, just ask her to pretend to be single and Basil is not in the picture. Ask her things like if she is planning to have a family. What type of person she wants her husband to be. How much involvement in her partner's life she wants. How she wants to be treated. You know, all those small things. Use examples of real-life relationships. Just be like ex's relationship. And then afterwards, ask her how she sees her life right now unfolding if she sticks with Basil. Bring up how actions escalate in time, and Basil is already trying to manipulate her without telling her the full story. And after all that, just be like I just wanted to give you some food for thought. I will not bring this up again if you do not want me to. So if you have something to get off your chest, I am here. But I will not be pressuring you into breaking up with him. I believe you should, but I also believe it should be your own decision. And hopefully, thinking more clearly about the life you want will help with that. Ops response. That feels like really sound and mature advice. I will try.